Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics. So, how do progressives solve the problems of the far right? Well, there was an international conference today exploring exactly that problem. However, of all the very wise and sensible things which the various delegates talked about, there was one glaring omission. One thing which would really help progressive push back against the fascists. It involves Nigel Farage, a pineapple, and something which would probably be a breach of his human rights. Though he wants to abolish those anyway, so never mind. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So this conference today is clearly a counter to the increasingly organised far right globally, and especially within liberal democracies. Progressive politics is not just facing a tough time in the UK, it is an international problem. It's not about Trump either, he's just a symptom of the greater malaise. So it's really good to see that progressive leaders around the world can work with one another and put on events like this that we are collectively seized of the problem, right? However, it was missing something. See, think back to when the National Conservatism Conference is on. Each year, it gets a few articles written about it in the press. This progressive conference, I suspect, isn't going to get anything prominent. Now, you may dismiss that as well, Phil. The right-wing press don't want to promote it, obviously. And sure enough, I'm sure they don't. But they do still want clicks. Also, not all outlets are tribally right-wing, and the other outlets aren't probably going to publish stuff either. And it's just because it's not click-worthy enough. Like, the talks went on all day. Technically, as I'm recording this, they're still going on, right? I've just left Darren Jones and some other people talking about stuff. I can't, in all honesty, say I'll have listened to more than a fraction of it, right? But when I was listening, and I've listened to a fair amount of it, I would say about a couple of hours worth, I heard speeches and panel discussions all talking about the right things. And they all came up with what were sensible solutions. It wasn't pretentious claptrap. It really was genuine discussions. I found the panels more interesting than the speeches, but I found it all very interesting. But others wouldn't think so. I mean, think about the target audience we really need to get these messages through to, right? The average person who wants to be informed, but they want to be informed quickly, right? They're not going to listen to a couple of hours of speeches. They need quick sound bites. And those sound bites need to mean something to the average person because they're competing with all the other sound bites. I didn't really hear anything today that sound bites easily. I didn't see it trending on Twitter. Yes, I know Twitter throttles and amplifies certain things, but it should still have been trending on my timeline if there was anything really tasty behind it. The National Conservatism Conferences, which that's the right-wing authoritarian version, it's held every year in a different country. It throws up mad shit. Remember the one we had in London 2 or 3 years ago? The kids in my school identify as cats, therefore trans people aren't real. Completely made up. But this is what populists do. They make shit up that they know you cannot definitively disprove to their supporters. Because if you try and say, she's made that up, oh, you can't prove it, can you? As if the burden of proof is on me. That's what they do. They make stuff up that you cannot definitively disprove to the sort of people they want to appeal to. And then they insist the burden of proof is on you to disprove them, not on them to prove it. How do you compete with that? I'll tell you. I will tell you. In fact, better yet, someone else will tell you. I'm afraid I don't know who came up with this, so I don't know who to credit. But there was a bit of a meme created a while ago. It's been doing the rounds a bit. It was an edited picture of a House of Commons petition. It's not real, just to be clear. The House of Commons would never allow such a petition. And it was entitled, "Shove a Pineapple Up Nigel Farage's Arse." The petition read as follows. I want to see a pineapple shoved up Nigel Farage's arse. We're all sick and tired of the sight and sound of this pound shop Oswald Mosley peddling his divisive bullshit, so let's shove a pineapple up his arse. The same could apply to whoever occupies the same role in other countries battling with far-right populism. Now, I'm not suggesting that Rachel Reeves or Keir Starmer made such a proposal when they spoke at the conference, right? But I would say they should have said something equally shocking, which would nonetheless align with progressive values. Shoving pineapples up people's arses is not progressive, sorry. Progressive doesn't have to be boring. It's like, because progressive people are serious people, they think that means they can't have a bit of fun at the same time. You 100% can. See, one of the many, and there have been many, great philosophical bits of wisdom in decades worth of Doctor Who episodes, is one where the Doctor is asked, "Doctor, are you quite serious?" To which he replies, "About what I do? Yes, but not necessarily the way I do it." Which is a brilliant line. It inspired me for decades. Serious things don't have to be done seriously. Serious politicians need to learn that what they do should be serious, but not necessarily the way they present it. Labour have got a few problems right now, but their number one issue is communicating with the public. I may have mentioned it once or twice. To communicate, it's not enough to talk. You need to be listened to. The distinction becomes obvious when you work as a teacher. I taught a lot of things, but not everything was learned. You would think politicians are like teachers in this regard. In fact, there is a saying in teaching that's drilled into us. Just because you taught it doesn't mean they learned it. Why is there no equivalent phrase in politics? It's just as important. If you tell the public what you're doing, but they don't know what you're doing, have you really told them? You may think you have, but you haven't. So like a teacher, you need to package the lesson up so that it's appealing, so that the audience wants to listen. I mean, as a teacher, you've basically got a captive audience. Doesn't mean they're listening, though. In politics, you don't even have the captive audience. So you have to be extra appealing. The current methods just aren't working in the modern post-truth 24/7 social media age. Oh yeah, yes, we're doing terribly serious things in terribly serious ways. That Nigel Farage fellow is not remotely serious. You should reject him, you see. I don't know how to tell you this. It ain't working. Change it to be more click-worthy. Come out and say something like this, right? This is what they should do. This government is bringing the biggest boost to workers' rights in generations. Nigel Farage voted against them because he hates workers. We're also boosting renters' rights, and Farage opposes those because he wants you to live in mouldering hovels like the peasants he thinks you are. We're also transitioning to clean, secure energy so that your bills are cheaper, but Farage opposes that because he's a lickspittle for Putin who profits from fossil fuels. Now, Nigel Farage is opposing all of the great things this government is doing. We need to do something to stop him. Now, an idea a chap came up with once was to shove a pineapple up his arse. We're not going to do that because that would be a breach of his human rights. Although, interestingly, Nigel Farage wants to abolish our human rights. Maybe he ought to think twice about that because he might become a bit vulnerable. Just see how easy it is to capture the news cycle if you just present things in the right way. It's like when boxers face off against each other for the weigh-in. Who's that for? Who's that for? That's got no bearing on the fight. The fight's not happening yet. It's for the punters. This is the difference. Serious politicians never think about their appeal to the punters, but unserious politicians think about nothing else. What we want are politicians who take things seriously, but understand that the public don't always. If you want to get yourself on the same wavelength and be heard, then change your pitch. Boast about all the things you're doing to make life better for people. Trash talk the populists who are opposing it, and then threaten the improbable insertion of exotic fruits to guarantee clicks. Or something like in keeping with humanitarian law, if you insist. But let me know what you think in the comments below. For more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.